Wheatley, and welcome to episode 176 of the Wheatley podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, or me, I should say, wherever you are doing so. You can support us and buy me a coffee if you like. Thank you very much to everyone who has done so. It's very humbling, and it's allowed us to. Most of the money has probably gone towards, this microphone in the background, which I haven't sorted yet, but also books that I have read in preparation for guests coming on. So thank you very much for that, because it's made my job a lot easier to know at least somewhat of what I'm talking about. It depends on what you think of that. I'll let you be the judge. Also, my another podcast that I'm involved with, it's called Lucky Works Co podcast, hosted by my good friend Josh, about personal development, really, and how to. I still don't really know how to describe it, but I'm there to add some levity to the situation, and I noticed that we're 4 episodes in now, and you can follow it all on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, and obviously listen to it on Spotify and Apple and things. I found that I kind of interrupt most of the time and just go off track, and then we somehow circle back. But it's about the animal and the human side of, ourselves, and it kind of got me kind of thinking of what this episode's kind of about. Well, at least half of what this episode is about. And I was talking to a couple of people there in the last couple of weeks as well about the solo episodes and how people really enjoy them, and I obviously am surprised by that. They do get more listens than a lot of the others, but I think, like I said before, I think that's more to do with the fact that, I guess might be on that you might not be interested in, the subject matter, and then there are obviously some that you would be, and that goes for everyone, so they swap around. But I suppose people tend to tune in because they know what these episodes are about from the title, and they may have I don't know why you listen to it anyway. I'm trying to justify why you listen to it, but I don't know. But I'm glad that you do, obviously. Yeah, so like obviously I wanted to kind of do a solo one every now and again, but there's a good bit of effort that goes into the solo ones, and also there's only so much I feel I can actually say, talk about without repeating myself. I'm not a very interesting person. I don't. No, I take that back actually, because people get on to me for saying that. But I don't do a lot of things outside of my regular routines for reasons that we've talked about before. So I kind of think to myself, like, what do I have to talk about? But like I said, this podcast that I'm doing with Josh got me in the frame of mind to think about like aspirations. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about for the first bit, and the idea of achieving our aspirations and completing something. And when I was speaking to Josh about beliefs, and I took it up wrong, like he wasn't talking about religious beliefs or anything like that, but he was talking about like deep centered beliefs that we have from when we are born and start to kind of realize what people are talking about. Those kind of deep-seated beliefs he was talking about. I was talking about my ideas, beliefs as an idea of, I believe I'm going to be this person. And I'm not talking about The Secret or any of those books that, if you want to believe that kind of stuff, you can. That's good. Up to yourself. But that's not my kind of thing. But so I got into talking about my belief as a young person, as a teenager, that I was going to grow up and become a musician, like. And it's like, when I go back to when I started really noticing music, and the bands that I was listening to were like Metallica and Nirvana and things like that, because the guys around me were listening to that, and they had the tapes, take the cassettes, and I had cassettes of Guns N' Roses was a good example, and I had these cassettes in this black like cassette tape holder, which had like I think 12 spaces in it that you could hold and carry it around. And I had like 7 or 8 in that. And then the first CD I bought, I talked about this before, was Nevermind by Nirvana. And it blew out, it blew all the stuff out of the water. For, Nirvana were like something different. Um, and I was 10 then. And when I started, my brother was playing the guitar before me. And from what I remember, he wrote out the tabs for the chords, just the basic, like A minor, B minor, B flat, all that kind of stuff. And I started to like patiently go through it, and I got a guitar, and it was a Samick electric guitar was my start. I don't even have an electric guitar now. I have two acoustics. I couldn't be bothered to setting up electric guitars and all that. Um, but it's kind of what Nirvana did was allow me to think that I could play music and become successful. Because if people play the guitar, they'll know Nirvana's a lot of while the songs are a little bit more complicated than they sound, but a lot of them is like power chords. And um once I learned how to shape my fingers in that direction, I could start playing Nirvana songs. And that was, now listen, I can't sing like Kurt Cobain. That's one thing. We will get into the singing part in a bit, but I certainly couldn't sing, and I can't sing like Kurt Cobain. I think I can sing Polly. Actually, there's a couple of songs I can sing by Nirvana, but yeah, it's not, my voice isn't made for that kind of wear and tear. So when I started playing, um, and I started to become friends with other people who could play instruments, and you trade ideas and stuff. And I quickly realized that my brother was mad into solos. He's a big fan of Bon Jovi, and I'm not a fan of Bon Jovi, but I recognize that their former guitarist Richie Sambora was a great guitar player. So my brother wanted to emulate that, so he would learn the tablature for like for all of these songs, and not just Bon Jovi, by the way. That just happens to be his favorite band, but all of this stuff was like, I hear him in his room playing these solos, and I was thinking, right, I'm never going to be able to play those. Um, Number one, number two, soloing and singing at the same time aren't that easy. People always use Jimi Hendrix as an example then of someone who could do it, but I wouldn't classify Hendrix as a great singer. If you listen to his live stuff, like he's singing to get, it's almost like to get through the verses and chorus so we can get to the solo bit. He's singing to get there, and that's going to be the main thing. And like it's always worked it with Jimi Hendrix, but that's just an example that people use. And I found that when I started to learn like bar chords and figure out, I could honestly say I don't even know the scales that well. I'm like literally, like, people will have heard me on Instagram, maybe if you follow the podcast on Instagram or Facebook, and I sometimes do play songs. Like, I've only learned how to pick um chords like in the last 5 years. Uh, all before that it was plectrum and just strumming, but now I can kind of pick, not in the what's the something claw thing. Donovan used this, and he taught John Lennon how to play in that way as well. Not to that level, obviously, but I can do it just about. If I want to be quiet and in my room play guitar, um, I'll do that. So I use Nirvana as an example of a springboard into other ways in which I thought, like, this is going to be me. This is what I'm going to do. And I got into a band when I was like 21, and at that point I was already messing around like a few years on a piano. Now I would be limited on a piano, but I was messing around at the time on a piano, and drums kind of came a bit more naturally to me. I was lucky enough when it came to drums. I used to own a kit, and I actually bought an electric kit there not so long ago. So it's great to have, like, have that back and be able to. That's very therapeutic to play the drums. Um, so I was kind of thought of myself, never said it out loud, by the way. I'm not, but I thought of myself as this multi instrumentalist kind of. This was the idea. So when I joined this band, look, um, I had no like confidence in my voice whatsoever. But Sean, who was the lead singer in the band, thought like it would be a good idea if I sang 5 or 6 songs, just to kind of mix it up. And I thought to myself, can I sing? Right. When I went to America at the age of eh, 18, for 3 months to stay in my aunt's place. I was looking after my two nephews at the time for them for obviously for their parents as they went to work, and I bought $100 acoustic guitar, and they had this like kind of room at the side of the house that had like a big stereo, a couch. It was very spacious and stuff. So the two my two nephews would be what do we call my nephews, my cousins nephews. My cousins were in the TV room, so they'd be watching TV, and I'd basically have on the stereo. It was the Verve, a lot of the Verve at the time, because I thought to myself, I think Richard Ashcroft, I'm the closest to his voice than I am to anyone else's. Um, I fancied myself as a bit of a Damon Albarn vocally, but there was a certain parts of songs that I couldn't quite get to. I think you can get them better now, actually. But at the time, I wasn't a good singer, like at all, and barely got near being in tune ever. So I decided I was just going to sing along to these Verve songs and some Oasis songs, by the way, but not all of them. So I started singing um, off the Urban Hymns album and a Northern Soul album. And so by the time I got around to the band idea, I thought to myself, I'll get a Verve song for sure. So I started doing Sonnet, and that became my kind of thing, and still kind of is. It's kind of, if someone was asked me to sing a song at a party, that'd be it. But and then Sean was like, "Well, you can sing Molly's Lips by Nirvana. That's not too bad. You can sing Molly's Chamber by Kings of Leon." Um, and we got it up to 6 at the time. And I didn't really do harmonies with him, but I just kind of sang with him in certain bits and pieces. So the first night we were playing, I had to sing it, and I was nervous as hell. Like I think it was the second song of the night as well. But it went okay. Um, and we were playing all covers, and I thought to myself, well, I've written a couple of songs. Like they weren't good. the, uh, the melodies are dreadful, like very forgettable melodies. Some of the chord progressions were fine. So yeah, like they weren't, But I was starting to think to myself at the time, like we have to write our own songs if we want to really do anything with this. Like it's good for, 50 quid on a Saturday night, 50 quid each, to play covers and get some drinks off the bar, the bar, the barman will give us some free drinks or whatever, and that's about it. So I started writing, and I thought I kind of introduced a couple of songs to the band, and I was nervous about doing that, even though they were cool. And I played one on the keyboard, so I had kind of plugged in through the PA. We lived in a house together. 3 of the 4 members of the band lived in a house together, and we could kind of practice anytime we wanted to without too many complaints, even though we were in an estate. Um, so I thought that a couple of songs went down well, but the band kind of fell by the wayside after that, unfortunately. And I genuinely wasn't active enough with regards to writing um music, and I didn't like hone my skills enough. And I remember years later, I like this would have even been just about 4 years ago. I wrote another song, and I thought to myself, like, now it's not amazing or anything like that, but it's catchy, and it's I don't know. I found the register that I should be singing in from writing my own stuff. Um, but I think you know I kind of gave up a bit easy on it. Not saying that anything would have happened, but I remember saying to my mum and my girlfriend at the time, "No, I'm done with the music thing now." And that was like when I was 27 or something, maybe around then. And it's kind of a shame, but you are like at 27, Um, it's like when kids want to be footballers when they grow up. When you get to 27, you're, and you're not playing for, Chelsea, that's it. You're not getting into football after that. So it was kind of one of those things. And when something like that it becomes, it comes to an end, you think to yourself, like, well, what have I, what other skills do I have? And it was not long after that when I had the breakdown and stuff. And uh, a few weeks after, I decided, right, I'm going to write about this. And I don't know if I sat down and thought to myself, right, I'm going to write a novel, but I ended up doing that. And I ended up writing it like in the town centre, in Athlone, in the shopping centre there, and in the Radisson, and a couple of other places where I'd go with my notebook and just write. And it's about, like, there's no point in hiding it. It's clearly about me. There's little frills added in here and there. There's a storyline with a girl, which is obviously, it's a fictional thing, and um, some of the town has changed up. But I think people from Athlone, if they read it, they'd probably be able to notice landmarks and streets that things are taking place on. But I never thought it was. I messed around with it a lot. Like, I did a lot of drafts and things. And if people asked me that could kind of read it, I'd be a bit. I'm not so sure, because I do think it's very naive in the way it's written. I don't think it's at all great. I mean, for a first time, it's not too bad, but it's never been in the hands of an editor, which would have made it a whole lot of difference to the novel, and would have been able to help me kind of shape it and stuff. So, it's yeah, it's long enough, but yeah, it definitely could be trimmed and stuff. So I thought, well, like, so I have one novel in the bag, and I thought, like, well, maybe I can write another one, and I basically have like 4 or 5 copies of that novel in a box in the room behind me. But I I'd started to write another one, and I thought it would be interesting to write about, like, early onset Alzheimer's, and how a young lady has to help her mother through it, like, and not wanting to just throw her, in a care facility, or. So the idea that this lady would go to great lengths to kind of help her mother and keep her away from, like, those kind of places, but at the same time trying to push down the real feelings of what should be happening. And I started to write it, and it became so bloated then, the novel, because it was. I still have it on a memory card somewhere. It's not finished, but the idea became so bloated that I couldn't quite get a handle on it, and which is a shame, because I thought I was definitely improving as a writer, and um yeah, I think, who knows, who am I to say if it's any good or not? But so I started thinking, like, these novels take so much time and energy, and you're on the same subject matter for a long time, and trimming and trimming and trimming. So I thought, wait, well, like, I branch out into short stories. Now I have only read a few short story writers. I mean, writers who predominantly dealing in short stories, not people who are, just dabbling in it. Um, and I thought, like, this is it's such a weird thing to do, like, write 12 pages of something quite dramatic, and have to limit yourself to those pages, rather than, open it up to 300, 400 pages, and then you have, like, I suppose the fleshed out version of the story. But it became kind of a challenge to me, the short stories, and I really enjoyed them. And I had this idea of 50 states in America and a short story for each one. And I think I've done 22 or something like that, which isn't that bad. I think I did Florida twice, though. Completely changed the idea of one to another. And the one that I kind of let go by the wayside was the idea that I turned into that second novel. So I thought, I got in this flow for a while where I was bringing the notebook with me, and then so I'd be writing a new one whilst at the same time, like, transcribing the second one by, typing it up. And that was the kind of way I spent my time, then, where I suppose I was trying to avoid, not trying to avoid people, that sounds terrible, but I was avoiding people, not talking to as many people. So um yeah, I think it's the same that happened with the music, though, that, like, I slowly started to think to myself, like, do I have enough ideas in my head? Do I have enough stories to tell? And again, the confidence kind of started to drain away with me, which is a common trait with many people. It's not just me. And I'm only after noticing something at the top of the page, and I'm really sorry. I want to say thanks very much to Christine, to coming on last week. She was absolutely brilliant guest, and I had such a fun time with her. And yeah, go read Christine's book or go back and listen to the episode because it's really good. I'm sorry about that, Christine. I should have had you in earlier. But yeah, so I think the confidence kind of started to leak out, and I do look back at that period fondly though, because that was uh, the I needed that to stay afloat, kind of, that creative process, or like the idea of just kind of having something to get up to, or sorry, get up for, and be, productive in a day when I didn't have a job. And, it meant something to me. And there's a couple of stories there um in it that I'm really like proud of. I still really like them. I don't read them back that often, to be honest. But there's a couple there that I think that can be made into cool short films. But um I don't have the skill or the wherewithal to turn them into that. Um but I guess they were my big aspirations, I don't see like people's aspirations might be to get married or to get, to have kids or to open a business and stuff like that. I never really had those aspirations. I had kind of aspirations, I guess, that were more to do with the creative side of things. And yeah, I didn't quite get there. But look, I think, I'm not the only one. It's a big ask for someone to, you know, break into that world, whether it's music or literature or whatever. It's a tough one. So yeah, so kind of flipping back then to the aspirations again was I wondered, or I remembered and reminisced about my time as people will know I run a lot, but when I wasn't training jiu-jitsu and CrossFit, I was doing 20Ks a week. So I was putting it in. And I wondered what my aspiration was at the time, whether it was to run a marathon or, just stay fit or get fit, or, it seems kind of the same answer. But I, I kind of wondered, did I want to do something like that? Did I want to do a marathon in the end? Now, running 3 20Ks a week is tough on the body. It does take its toll. It builds up certain pain. I had a tendonitis in my knee for quite a long time, and I get my hips get or my hip gets really tight from time to time. Now I'd say that's probably more to do with jujitsu than running and stuff. But it's still like running or anything like that is always it's always going to affect you. So going back a few weeks now. So Keen, my friend in the gym, one of the coaches, asked me to do a half marathon with him, and it was about 10 days out from it. And it's probably the best time to ask me to do anything, because then I think it gives me less time to think about it and to get anxious about it, and say yes and then reconsider it shortly after. So I said we might as well do it now. The funny thing is, I'm doing like 3 12Ks a week, and we train obviously in the gym anyway. Like Keen does a lot of weights and jiu-jitsu, and I would do like more cardio based in jiu-jitsu, but it all gives us a platform to work off in regards to cardio, right? So I think so Keen, like I said, hadn't run a lot. He was doing like 4 or 5K kilometers at a time. So, but I know, like, this is when I talked to him about the High Rocks event that I missed, and it's on an episode, few episodes back. And Keane didn't train for that either, and he just kind of got up and said, I'll be grand, I'll just do it." So we went down, and it was a really nice venue down in Loch Cutcher down in Galway. It's very close to the Clare border. So we drove down that morning. It was a gorgeous day. Like, it was such a nice day, and we were like plowing on the sunscreen, making sure everything was all right. And I wore my trusty running jacket, which got a bit of a slagging off Keen, and one guy on the side of the road who was just having a go, well, not having a go, but slagging me off, like he wondered how warm I was, like running in the heat. But like, in defense of myself, I run in that jacket all the time, and I know that like it gets, when you sweat into that jacket and then the breeze blows, it actually quite cooling. So it was nice. So the venue, when we were looking at the venue at the start, there was a lake in the middle, and then there was obviously the run was all the way around the lake and back again. It was 3 laps of 7 kilometers, so 21 in total. When we got back, sorry, I was trying to figure out what that word meant. It doesn't. I wrote down a word there in front of me, and I can't read it for the life of me. But um, so when we started, right? So there was grass, just regular flat grass. We took off, ran up a kind of just an incline, not so much a hill, but an incline into a kind of a foresty thing. So you had to watch where you're running. There was uh, roots of branches and stuff going underneath. And this woman like ran up behind us and said, "Oh, will you move in there, lads, for the people coming behind?" So I was like, I didn't know they had to get up at all. Like, so I got in the way. I got out of the way. Loads of people like streamed by. I nearly lost Keen. So then we had to kind of pass all these people out. So so off we went, and we were thinking, right, let's do 5:30 a kilometer, which is a good pace. It's not, but it's not, killing ourselves. But we thought like 6 minutes, even 6 minutes a kilometer is a decent time. But it'd be nice to get under 2 hours. That was the goal. We both said during the race that if we weren't together, we probably neither of us would have run at that pace. It was just that was the ideal pace for us as we made our way around. So we made our way around. You go through forests, a number of forests, and it's very cool and shadowy and really nice. Then you go onto this kind of old country road where these people are out clapping and everything. Like, it was really nice. And like I said, while this was going on, there was a triathlon, and there was a 10K race, 5K race. There was number of events. So people be passing out all the time. You have to remember, they're not in the same, category as us. So you're kind of worrying, you're seeing, but some of these boys are there doing it all the time. They're wearing the singlets, with Australia on the back, and, wherever they were representing. So wasn't really, neither of us were going down thinking like, oh, let's go win this or whatever. So we were running around chatting, and there was a steward there at one point, and she was just making sure nobody went the wrong way. And she was like, "Oh, well, lads, if you can chat, you're doing all right." And we were, laughing at her. And the third lap we went around, she was like, "Geez, lads, you're still talking." And we were literally like just chatting nonsense, but it did help, like, the two of us, get around there. Like, and we egged each other on. They had these like food stations, like, and then a bit further down the line they had drinks, and it'd be isotonic drinks and water, and at the food station it'd be like bananas and jelly beans and different things like that, energy bars. And it was so well run that there was their 11th year, and they really put on a quite a show, and it's a lovely venue. Even if you were just going down to visit the family, like that walk, that 7K walk is nice if you can do it. I'm not sure if you can do it during you can obviously do some of it, but there were certain fields that we're going through that had like um horseshoe prints, and the prints of cow hooves and stuff. And we had to watch our ankles basically in that at that moment, because you could go in there very, go in the go one of those very easy. I think I counted 6 or 7 times where I nearly rolled my ankle on the forest floor. I think Keen did a couple of times as well. But we were getting into the, like, I think our slowest kilometer was the first, because there was a lot of people. I had to stop at 1 minute to let everybody through. And I think the fastest was the 19th, because we really started open out. But I said, look, we have two still to go, so we need to just, pace ourselves. But I think we did. I think we did pace ourselves. And I have great like admiration for what Keane did, because you go into that, it's tough enough, but then with not having been able to train properly for it, and being, you know it's tough. And he got through, and he wasn't complaining about it, and he just went and did it. um and I was delighted. And but I have to show you this if people haven't seen, and if they're watching on YouTube. This is my medal, which is actually a pretty cool medal. It's a Castle Race Series in it. There's the castles on the bottom there. Congratulations, you raced your way. What date is it? The 28th of May, 2023. Um, this is the first medal. I know, like, people will say, "Oh, well, everybody got one. Like, you didn't win the competition or anything." Not really the point that we were trying to put across, but we're thrilled. Well, I'm thrilled with my medal. I know Keen has some other ones, but this is my literally the only medal I have. I've never won a medal. I've never been in contention for a medal. That kind of it's not my competing and stuff isn't my thing. So to get one for just being up, and like we've talked about it since then, myself and Keen. We saw in the paper the other day that there's going to be one in Athlone, a half marathon and a 10K. So we're definitely thinking about that. It'd be interesting to challenge yourselves on the flat though, because there's a number of inclines in that one. You have to watch where you're walking in certain parts of it, like it's a bit dodgy. But we're thinking about the Athlone one. We're thinking about maybe traveling somewhere to do another one. And, when Keane gets it in his mind, he saw this video online the other day and it was this person, or sorry, it was a competition that was hiking, cycling. It was hiking, cycling, and no, it wasn't kayaking. Sorry, kayaking, cycling, and running. Um, and it's like 60 something kilometers, which would be, tough going. But I'd say, look, we could do it if we did the half marathon, we could do that, no problem. Um, so, like, how did I feel after? I think the next day I had a little bit of a stiff back, and I remember it was because of the idea of like stepping on the uneven ground all the time. There's rocks and stuff like that. So taking those steps, but constantly squeezing your core, tightening everything up so you don't jar your back or anything. And I think that kind of constantly doing that for like 21 kilometers is going to do to your back, is going to put you off a bit. So I did feel it not the next day, but the day after, on the Tuesday. Um, but like, a couple of weeks after that, I was able to train again, do some CrossFit and stuff, and you know, taking it easy. I wasn't. I went to Dublin for a couple of days, which was a rest for me. So I could stay out of the gym for a bit. That was helpful, but it was just that you don't know when is the good time to start again. Should I go back into training immediately the next day? Obviously not. Like, but you try to think like, how does my body feel? How are my legs? How are my shoulders? Is there any problems? I had chatted to Keen about it and he was a bit stiff, but like, you'd have to be a bit stiff after a half hour, or sorry, a half marathon, because it's going to catch up with you. So, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously back now into jiu-jitsu and into CrossFit and stuff like that. And, I'm happy. Yeah, thrilled with that. Um, so that was our journey on the half marathon. Everybody was very very nice to us when we came back. Very thank you very much and all that. Um, but when it comes to aspirations, is that something that I've achieved now? I guess it's like it is something that I've achieved, obviously, but well, I didn't ever think about it when I was a youngster that like, oh, will I be a half marathon runner or whatever? Or like I can apply that to everything in my life. Like, would I be a coach or do jujitsu and all those kind of things? Like none of them were kind of dreamed up, but those bigger aspirations that I had when I was growing up about music and you know anything creative, and it just didn't seem to land for me, unfortunately. And I just think that I may like when I talk to the people on here, right? The people that come on and talk about creative stuff like artists and musicians and stuff like that. When you hear them talk about what they're doing, their passion is unbelievable. Like, the passion really properly shines through. There's nothing fake or contrived about it. But I don't know if I had it. I love music and I love films, and I'm constantly talking about it and writing up about it and stuff like that. But maybe just I wasn't good enough to be that person. And even saying that, people would be like, "I don't put yourself down," but it's not putting yourself down if you're like, if it didn't happen. It's stating facts, really. I don't know why I've hit a wall of tiredness all of a sudden. That seems to happen a lot when I'm doing the solo episodes. I don't know. Have you ever tried to talk to yourself for like a half hour? Maybe you'd put yourself to sleep too. But I like, where do we change our aspirations? Like, or do we change them, or do we come to a realization that only certain things are available now? And if I could, I think I wouldn't try the the creative thing again. It would seem a bit of a well, it seems a bit of a waste. I do like, putting myself out of my comfort zone, going on Instagram, singing a song, that kind of stuff. I do enjoy that, but it's not, I know that it's just you're just on Instagram, and, just singing a Nick Drake song like I did last week. And people are very kind and they say they really like and things like that, and that's always very touching. But nothing. I know nothing's going to come of it. I know nothing. No one's going to just look at my Instagram account one day and say, "Oh, we need to sign this guy onto whatever." Um. So I think like my aspirations have shifted, but I've yet to fully uh, address what it is that I'm missing in that side of things, or maybe not even missing, but just haven't kind of tapped into it yet. Um, maybe I need to do a marathon to give myself a proper break, or to talk about how to talk about myself the way my mom would talk about me, or just about because you may have noticed I can be quite harsh on myself, and it's I think a lot of it is I would see it as warranted, but then another side of it is partly um what to expect, what would you expect from me? But it's a weird one, like because I don't the aspirations and beliefs and wants and needs and all that they're all up in the air now. Like I think we're just trying to I don't know pick one out and hope that we can do something with it. But I'm just kind of waffling here now. But yeah, look, I hope like that your aspirations were met when you were young to who you are today. Or like, are you still thinking about them? Or have you moved on to other aspirations and just kind of brought in your, I don't know. I'm kind of waffling. But listen, I'll cut it there. I know it's a short one, but look, sometimes they're good ones too to take a kind of breather. I've got like 4 or 5 guests lined up, so I'm happy to get this solo one in and show off my medal. Basically, that was the whole reason. No, but I think yeah, there's some really interesting people coming up, and I hope you will enjoy them. Thanks to John for everything he does for the podcast. Thank you very much to my mom, my dad, my granddad, Jared and Calvin, as always. Uh, Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would. It's very important. And if you're watching a video on YouTube, click the like button on it as well. That always gets us a little bit more attention. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us there. And then Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, etc. Once again, thanks everyone for tuning in, for listening to me kind of go around the houses about aspirations, but never quite nailed down what I wanted to talk about. And but that's part of the course at this stage. You all know how this uh, podcast goes. But yeah, listen, thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments or whatever like that, send them on to us because we will answer them. We always do. So yeah, Instagram's probably the best place. See everyone next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.